Hello and welcome to the Rogers Brief. I'm Adam Rogers. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. I want to thank all the new subscribers I've gotten recently to the YouTube channel here and new followers on Twitter as well at Adam Rogers NS. So I encourage you to continue sharing these videos and the posts and sharing them with friends and anyone you think might be interested. And I'll keep providing this analysis to the public. So today, day 8 of the Mass Casualty Commission proceedings, wasn't looking like it was going to be a huge day, just based on the schedule, but actually turned out to be quite a pivotal day in the Mass Casualty Commission proceedings. Today was just scheduled originally to have a presentation on the overnight hours in Debert, but two other things happened today. One in the Commission proceedings, which was a decision on witnesses, a decision released by the Commission, delivered by the Commissioners dealing with the witness requests we've heard over the past few days. And then before any of that, in Dartmouth Provincial Court this morning was a matter of Lisa Banfield's criminal charges. That was addressed in court. Now I looked at the docket this morning, as I do across the province sometimes, and I saw her name there, and next to it was a request for adjournment. So I was a little concerned that she was going to request a trial adjournment, but it was a request. The request was being made because the Crown was referring her matter to restorative justice, which means no trial is required. She accepts responsibility for what she was charged with doing, which was supplying ammunition to Gabriel Wortman, her spouse. But the restorative justice process takes it outside of the criminal process and the formal criminal court process. And what happens is somebody will do something like they'll write an apology letter, they'll take counseling, they'll make a donation to charity, do community service, something along those lines, and then they return in a few months' time after they've completed the process and the Crown withdraws the charges. So Ms. Banfield's next court date is May 3rd, and presumably if she completes whatever she's agreed to do by that time, those charges will be withdrawn. And that's relevant because her lawyer at in the early times within the Commission had indicated publicly that she would cooperate and be interviewed and be a witness if required once these criminal charges were dealt with and she didn't have legal jeopardy. Well, she technically still has that until May 3rd, but sounds like she's going to be meeting with the Commission today, and hopefully that means she'll be interviewed and agree to testify at an appropriate time. And I'll come back to that because the decision, like I said, was made on witnesses as well. But in the meantime, the main item on the agenda today had been this presentation of the foundational document relating to the overnight hours the killer spent in Debert. Debert's not that far from Portapique, where he left, escaped from Portapique without being noticed. And there was some video evidence from different businesses, Angelina's Pizzeria, Dave's service station, and the Farmhouse Bakery in Debert that showed police cruiser, which we know now to be the mock police cruiser, driving past starting at about 11:08 p.m. And we know that the killer spent just under 6 hours in Debert and for a time was parked behind Brian McDonald's welding shop in the Debert Business Park. And in addition to the video evidence, well, there were some items discovered where he had been parked. Mr. McDonald had discovered those and contacted the police. But there were other witnesses as well. There were two teenagers, a 13 and a 15-year-old boy that were out listening to music at a venue that's out in the business park. They were the only ones there. And they got home somewhere around 12:31 in the morning. And then when they got home, they had seen the police car driving up and down the road a little bit within the park. And then one of the boys' stepfather, who's a former private investigator, after the boys got home, went outside to have a smoke, and he also saw the police cruiser, the mock police cruiser as it was. So that was about 1 o'clock. So we know the killer spent a few hours at least in there. Don't know what he was doing. He may have been sleeping. I mean, he had a long day. He didn't have dinner. I think that was in evidence as well. Had been drinking alcohol the night before, the evening before. So the next time he was seen was on those videos at 5:42 in the morning, going back through Debert in the northern direction towards Wentworth. So that was all interesting as well. Not much to be gleaned from what was discovered at the site where he was parked. His police boots were there, a pair of boots that he owned with the name Wortman on the inside, a gun belt, some ammunition case cartridge. So, and a Mountain Dew, I guess. He's a Mountain Dew drinker. So that was observed in Debert, and then like I said, the vehicle took off before 6 in the morning towards Wentworth. So that was as much as we learned really about his time spent there. Certainly, the relevant thing that comes out of that is, had the police realized that Wortman had left the Debert area, the Portapique area, perhaps an emergency alert would have been issued. If an emergency alert had been properly issued to the people in the area, certainly one of these three witnesses who saw the police vehicle in a really out-of-place spot for it at the time in the business park in Debert would have called the authorities, and perhaps that would have been the end of things. So I'm sure the families will be focused on that little part of the factual scenario. Now, when I say it was a pivotal day, it wasn't just because of those things. It was really came down to the Commissioner's decisions on witnesses. And there were 27 witnesses requested, and in their decision, delivered by former Chief Justice MacDonald, the Commissioners agreed that we will hear from almost every one of those witnesses. So this was, really important, I know, to the families and the public watching to know, because until this time, there was a real question as to what trauma-informed was going to mean as part of the Commission's mandate. We heard from the lawyers from the Police Federation and the federal government saying that no police officer should have to testify because of that mandate. So it really had become a malleable term. Now, Chief Justice MacDonald ended up agreeing really conceptually with what I had written a few weeks ago about what trauma-informed means, from my understanding, that it doesn't mean witnesses don't testify. They still have to testify, but, they can take breaks, they can have assistance, they can, be done closed-circuit television, or however makes them most comfortable in order to deliver their testimony. So we are going to hear from witnesses. We're going to hear from the frontline police officers that were present. We're going to hear from the various staff sergeants who were involved in supervision, and we're going to hear from Brenda Lucky, Lee Bergerman, Chris Leather, Darren Campbell, the superintendents who were overseeing the RCMP in Nova Scotia at that time, and Miss Lucky, of course, the National Commissioner. So that'll be, we're going to hear from quite a few witnesses as the Commission proceedings unfold. So it was really interesting. It was really, like I said, the first time that we had a clear indication of how the Commissioners were going to approach this. And it raises a question for me as to why we didn't know this before. And I can only speculate because they haven't said so, but I wonder whether there was some disputes among the Commissioners as to what that might mean. But if there was, that dispute is over, and it's been resolved in favor of hearing witnesses and allowing for cross-examination by the parties. So very encouraging development in the proceedings today. It'll be good for the process and the legitimacy of whatever emerges in terms of recommendations. So that was that. That was, like I say, a very important day. Some important decisions made. Now the proceedings are on an extended break. We're not back until March 28th, and at that time we'll be hearing from Stuart Basselt, Constable Stuart Basselt, Constable Adam Merchant, and Constable Aaron Patton, the first three officers into the community on the night of April 18th. And so that will be certainly important to watch, and we'll have some important questions answered at that time. So I'll be watching for anything that develops in the meantime, and you'll no doubt see me, I think, Be back with Jordan Bonaparte in the Nighttime podcast. I just filmed a little bit with Sheldon McLeod here a minute ago, so we'll be seeing that on the Saltwire Network over the next few hours at some point. And I'll share that as well on Twitter and Facebook. So if there's any feedback on any of this, let me know. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with a friend as well. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time.